Rachel Jefferson had only been at Westfield High for 2 months. She was 17, bright-eyed, and disciplined beyond her years. The kind of young woman who called her father "Sir," even in casual conversation. She was new to town, new to the school, and new to the spotlight she never asked for. But when she made the varsity cheer squad, everything changed. In a school where the cheerleaders were blonde, white, and deeply rooted in legacy, daughters of country club mothers and booster club fathers, Rachel didn't fit the mold. She was a black girl with natural curls, a quiet voice, and something the others didn't have: precision. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. She had earned her spot. Every jump was tight, every step clean. But some people didn't care about skill. They saw her presence not as proof of merit, but as a threat to tradition. That's when the whispers began, low enough to pretend they weren't real, but sharp enough to cut. It started on a Wednesday. The list went up outside the gym. 23 names. Rachel's was there, bold as daylight, third from the bottom, but first to spark a storm. As the others screamed and hugged, Rachel stood tall, smile contained. Her father always told her, never gloat, never give them more than you need to. Across the gym, a trio of football players stared with folded arms and clenched jaws. Chase Monroe, senior quarterback, hometown golden boy, and heir to a construction empire, didn't speak, but his stare was loud. Beside him, Derek Foster cracked his knuckles like punctuation. Logan Price, the third wheel of their trio, just blinked, like he wasn't sure if he should be angry too. "You see that?" Derek whispered, loud enough for people to hear but quiet enough to deny. "Real progressive, huh?" Rachel heard it. She heard it all. They hadn't expected her to try out. They certainly hadn't expected her to make it, but they weren't worried, not yet. The thing is, they'd broken girls before. Chase had a record of humiliating people who didn't fit in. Not with fists. No, that would be too crude for a future Division I athlete. He used smiles that cut, words that bent the rules, and friends who'd follow him into hell if he asked. Rachel was just supposed to be another story. A bump in the hallway, a few well-placed rumors, maybe a prank or two, enough to make her quit on her own. What they didn't know, what none of them could have imagined, was that Rachel Jefferson wasn't alone. She had a father, not just a father, a man who had crawled through jungles, led recon teams into enemy fire, and trained for years in the art of psychological warfare. Retired Navy SEAL Captain William Jefferson knew exactly what bullying looked like. And worse, he knew what it could become if left unchecked. He also knew how to prepare a soldier. That evening, after tryouts, Rachel came home with her gym bag slung over one shoulder and something unreadable in her eyes. Her father was already at the kitchen table, 2 cups of tea steeping. He looked up from his copy of the Naval War College Review and studied her like she was a case file. "You made the team." She nodded. "I did." He smiled slightly. "And?" She dropped the bag by the door. "They're already looking at me like I don't belong." "Do you?" "I earned my place. That's all that matters." He slid a legal pad across the table toward her. "Then let's start your training." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "For cheer?" "For war," he said. Because Captain Jefferson knew something Rachel didn't, yet. He knew when people with power feel threatened, they don't back down. They double down. And these boys weren't just bullies, they were entitled, protected, and too young to understand what real consequences feel like. But they were about to learn. Westfield High would never be the same. Because the girl they thought was quiet, the girl they thought would crumble, The girl they shoved in the hallway and circled in red on Instagram. She was a soldier's daughter. And they had just declared war on the wrong girl. Rachel Jefferson didn't walk into trouble. Trouble found her. The morning after the cheer announcement, the atmosphere at Westfield High felt subtly different, like the barometric pressure had dropped and no one had noticed. The sun was still out. Students still wandered the halls with earbuds and backpacks, but there was a hum beneath it all. Eyes followed her now, not the curious kind, the kind that whispered after you passed, the kind that paused when you entered a room and resumed the moment you walked out. At first, Rachel tried to convince herself it was nerves, that she was being overly sensitive. But by third period, she couldn't ignore the shift. People didn't look at her. They assessed her. Girls from the cheer squad smiled too tightly. Boys from the football team didn't smile at all. The first sign came at her locker. She reached for the dial to enter her combination, only to find it already open. The books were rearranged, not stolen, just moved. Her chemistry binder was upside down. Her planner had been turned to next May. A yellow sticky note was pressed against the mirror inside her door. "Hope you're not afraid of heights." Rachel stared at it for a full minute before balling it up and tossing it in her bag. No threats, no signatures. Just suggestion. That was the trick. They kept it subtle. Just enough to make her doubt herself. Later that day, during lunch, she walked past the football table and felt the air shift again. Her chair was bumped hard from behind as she sat. A carton of milk nearly tipped. "Oops," Derek Foster said with a smirk. "My bad." He didn't even look at her. Her friend Jasmine raised an eyebrow. "He's never walked that close to our table before." Rachel shrugged it off. Could have been an accident. But her grip on her plastic fork tightened. What made it worse was the silence, the absence of help. The adults didn't see it. Or maybe they did and pretended not to. Coach Peterson was polite but distant. Principal Reynolds? She might as well have been invisible. Rachel's father noticed it immediately. That evening, as they sat down to dinner, grilled chicken, roasted potatoes, and steamed carrots, he studied her posture like a military instructor. She ate mechanically, chewing each bite like it took effort. "They've started," he said calmly. Rachel paused, fork halfway to her mouth. Started what? The pressure campaign. He said it like it was a doctrine. They want you to quit before you gain ground. This is their opening salvo. I didn't expect them to roll out a welcome mat, Dad. "No," he replied, "but I bet you didn't expect them to start so soon either." She didn't answer. The next morning, her phone lit up with a notification from Instagram. Someone had tagged her in a post. She tapped the screen. It was a photo of the cheer roster, her name circled in red. The caption read, "Westfield's going woke. R.I.P. Real Eagle Pride." The account name, Eagle Truth 2024. Fake. No profile picture. Comments poured in. "She doesn't even look like a cheerleader. Guess we're letting just anyone on the team now. There goes the neighborhood." Rachel stared at the screen, heart pounding, not with fear, but with rage. Her hands trembled. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She took screenshots. She blocked the account. And then she closed the app. That night she showed the posts to her father. He studied them in silence, then nodded and stood. "We're going to start logging everything. Print the screenshots, write down the time. Keep a journal. No reaction, no retaliation, not yet. Let them keep digging their own graves." The next few days brought more coincidences. During 7th period, someone switched the audio in her class project video to static and barking sounds. Her presentation time was cut short. No one admitted to it. At practice, she was accidentally elbowed during a tumbling sequence. Brittany, the blonde junior who'd always smiled just a little too brightly, muttered a quick, "Sorry," then smirked when Rachel turned away. The same week, she found a banana on her windshield with a note that read, "Monkey see, monkey do." She threw it out before her friends saw it, but her hands shook all the way home. The message was always the same. You don't belong here. One Thursday morning, she opened her locker and found the words, "Go home," scratched into the metal door. Deep, ragged, like someone had used a key. She took pictures. She walked straight to the principal's office. Principal Reynolds sighed deeply, like Rachel had come in to complain about the weather. Without a witness, vandalism is hard to prove. Rachel stared. "You think this isn't about race?" Reynolds raised both palms. "Let's not jump to conclusions." Rachel didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "What other conclusion should I draw, ma'am?" The principal looked away. "I'll talk to some students." That afternoon, her father found her in the living room, staring at the ceiling. "You okay?" "No." "You want me to talk to the school?" "No." She turned her head slowly. "That would make it worse." He studied her carefully. "Then we escalate quietly." That night, Rachel began walking with her head higher. Not in defiance, but with resolve. Her father had printed out a surveillance log template. Date, time, incident, witnesses, description. She filled it in every night with black ink and stiff fingers. Things peaked the following week. During lunch, as Rachel passed by the football table to refill her water, Derek stuck out his foot. She stumbled, nearly fell. "Watch where you're going," he said, loud enough for half the cafeteria to hear. Rachel turned, face calm. "You tripped me." Derek stood, 6'3", all muscle and malice. "You calling me a liar?" Chase and Logan flanked him, arms crossed, jaws tight. "I'm saying," Rachel replied, "you need to move your foot." The cafeteria went still. "You going to run crying to Daddy?" Chase mocked. "Oh, wait, isn't he some kind of soldier? Must be tough. Having a daughter who can't handle high school." Rachel's ears burned, but her face didn't flinch. "At least my father taught me how to be a decent human being." Derek's face turned red. "You think you're better than us? Walking around here like you own the place?" "I think I belong here as much as anyone else." Logan finally spoke up, voice shaky but eager to be part of the pack. "You really don't." Phones were out. Students were filming. Rachel stood alone in the center of a tightening circle. She held her gaze steady. "We'll see about that." Then she turned and walked out. Behind her, Chase called after her. "Yeah, walk away. That's what your kind does best." The words echoed through the cafeteria like a gunshot. That night, her father didn't speak when she walked in. He only looked at her muddy uniform, her clenched fists, the tight line of her jaw. She said only one thing: "Teach me how to make it stop." He nodded slowly. "Then tomorrow we begin." And they did. Captain William Jefferson hadn't seen combat in over a decade, but he recognized the battlefield when he saw it. That night, as he stood in the basement of their modest two-story home, barefoot on cold concrete, surrounded by sandbags, strike pads, and a heavy bag swaying gently in the stale air, he prepared to train his only child for a different kind of war. A war not fought in deserts or jungles, but in the fluorescent-lit corridors of a suburban high school, where the weapons were whispers, stares, silence, and shame. Rachel Jefferson wasn't crying. She hadn't cried since she was 9, when a cousin told her she'd never make it in the real world if she didn't lighten her skin or straighten her hair. That was the day her father taught her how to hold a stance. Not a fighting stance, a presence, back straight, chin up, shoulders square, as if the world had to earn the right to keep her attention. Now she stood in front of him again, older, bruised in ways most adults couldn't see, and asking him to teach her how to make it stop. "You sure you want this?" he asked. Rachel nodded, slow and deliberate. "They cornered me, pushed me. They want me afraid. I'm done being polite." He didn't smile, didn't say, "Good." He said, "Then we start tomorrow at 0600. Saturday morning came cold, not in temperature. Spring in Georgia was already climbing toward 70 degrees, but in feel. Rachel stood in the doorway of the basement at 5:58 a.m., wearing her old gym clothes and a ponytail tied tight. She watched her father wrap his knuckles with black cloth. "No warm-ups?" she asked. "This is the warm-up," he replied. He gestured toward a whiteboard mounted on the wall, where he had written in bold marker, Phase 1, Awareness, Tactics, Survival. "Forget Hollywood," he said. "Forget TikTok. Forget what you think fighting looks like. Real combat, any kind, is fast, ugly, and over in seconds. My job is to make sure you walk away, every time." For the next 2 hours, Rachel learned what it meant to be aware in a way most teenagers never had to be. He taught her to move like she was being hunted, because in a way, she was. He taught her how to walk with her head high, but her eyes low, scanning corners, angles, shadows. He made her stand in silence, hands by her sides, then snap into action the moment he barked, "Threat." They practiced how to break a wrist grab, how to turn a choke into a throw, how to take down a man twice her weight using leverage, not strength, how to jab a thumb into a soft eye socket or a heel into a kneecap. She didn't flinch, not once. He was proud, not because she fought well, but because she fought smart. By the end of the second week, the Jefferson basement looked like a SEAL team prep room. The old treadmill had been moved to the garage. In its place, a 100-pound heavy bag, a self-defense dummy with anatomically accurate pressure points, a corkboard with photos of 3 teenage boys, and red string connecting names to routines, schedules, locations. It was part war room, part psychology lab. Captain Jefferson pointed at the corkboard. Phase 2, Intelligence. "You want me to spy on them?" Rachel asked, arms crossed. "I want you to gather intelligence," he corrected. "You're not a soldier. You're a strategist. You don't win by fighting. You win by being invisible until they lose on their own." He handed her a small spiral notebook. "Every day I want times, routes, habits, who they talk to, where they park, when they leave class, start with Chase." "Golden boy," she muttered. "Exactly. His image is everything. If that cracks, everything else falls with it." The following Monday, Rachel arrived at school 40 minutes early. She didn't park in the student lot. She parked 2 blocks away and walked in through the rear gate, slipping into the library with a direct line of sight to the senior parking section. At 7:43 a.m., Chase Monroe's black Dodge Challenger rolled in. Same spot every day, third from the right, nearest to the gym. At 7:46, Derek Foster's beat-up silver Ford F-150 clanked in behind him. Logan Price arrived last, riding passenger in his mom's Honda Civic, his eyes on his phone as he stepped out. She wrote it all down. Every day, for 2 weeks. During lunch, she sat one table over from the football team, earphones in but volume off. She used her front-facing camera like a mirror to watch their expressions. Chase always led the conversation, hands moving like a preacher. Derek leaned in close, eyes sharp, fists clenching at the punchlines. Logan nodded along, eager, desperate, never initiating. By day 7, Rachel had filled 6 pages. Patterns, her father said that Friday night, scanning her notes. You find them? She nodded. Chase takes the long hallway to avoid crowds. Derek cuts through the arts building, less cameras. Logan, he follows whoever he's near. Good, he said. Now their weaknesses. What do they fear? She took a breath. Chase fears exposure. His dad's the head of Monroe Construction. They've donated buildings to this school. If Chase gets caught in anything, it's national. He nodded. Derek? Violence isn't new to him, but poverty is. I overheard him arguing with his girlfriend about not affording prom. Football is his only out. And Logan? Rachel hesitated. He just doesn't want to be alone. Her father leaned back in his chair. Then we don't break him. We let him break himself. By week 3, the mood at school was shifting. Chase and Derek were still smug, still loud, but there was tension in their movements. The incident in the cafeteria had drawn attention, and while no one confronted them outright, people were watching. Rachel could feel it. She kept her head down, never smiled too much, never snapped back. She became a ghost in her own story, but her notebook grew thicker. She documented a vape sale Derek made to a sophomore behind the gym. She recorded Logan checking the football locker rooms when no one else was around. She noted that Chase had started slipping out of practice early, sneaking texts on the bleachers. Something was brewing. Then came the night her father laid out the pills. They were in a Ziploc bag, inside a plain manila envelope. Rachel stared at them on the kitchen table. White, circular, imprinted with numbers. Anxiety meds, her father said calmly. Expired, left in the nurse's office, unlocked, sloppy. You want me to plant these? I want you to make sure the world sees Chase Monroe for what he is, not untouchable. Rachel was silent. She picked up the bag, held it in her hand, then set it down gently. If we do this, there's no going back. There wasn't the day they shoved you into the mud. That Friday afternoon, Rachel waited in the parking lot, hidden behind an old blue van. The football team had weight training until 5:30 p.m. Chase's challenger sat alone. He always left his doors unlocked. No one would dare, he once bragged. Rachel dared. She slipped in fast, 10 seconds, maybe 12, pills under the passenger seat, prescription bottle in the glove box, not obvious, not hidden, just enough. Then she walked away. 2 hours later, an anonymous tip reached the school's drug hotline. At 6:04 p.m., Principal Reynolds and Deputy Collins approached Chase on the field. The crowd gathered. Phones came out. They searched the car, found everything. Rachel stood on the sideline with the other cheerleaders stretching. Madison leaned in and whispered, "Looks like Monroe's in trouble." Rachel didn't flinch. Guess nobody's perfect. That night, she and her father sat quietly in the living room, watching the local news. The headline scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Star quarterback suspended pending investigation after drug discovery. Rachel didn't smile. She just asked, "Phase 1 complete?" Her father nodded. "Now we move to Derek." The day the mud came was supposed to be celebratory. It was homecoming, the biggest game of the year. The town gathered like clockwork. Families with folding chairs, students with painted faces, grandmothers wrapped in red and gold scarves cheering under October skies. The scent of concession stand popcorn floated through the air like tradition. To outsiders, it was Americana in full display, but Rachel Jefferson didn't feel like celebrating. The week had been tense. Since Chase Monroe's suspension for drug possession, the school buzzed with speculation. Rumors flew like crows. Some swore he was framed. Others whispered that he'd cracked under pressure. Principal Reynolds said little. The football team said nothing. But their eyes spoke plenty. Derek Foster hadn't taken the news well. He stormed out of practice Tuesday after being chewed out by Coach Hill. His aggression in drills had become reckless. He shoved teammates, cursed at referees. And when Rachel crossed paths with him near the vending machines, he didn't hide the way he looked at her. She knew, he suspected. He just didn't have proof. Yet. Friday afternoon, just before the homecoming game, Rachel changed into her cheer uniform in the locker room, black and scarlet, freshly ironed, clean white sneakers laced tight. She adjusted her curls in the mirror and told herself the same thing she always did before stepping onto the field. Eyes up, back straight, you belong. She texted her dad, heading to warm-up, we'll call after the game, love you. He replied within seconds, eyes open, chin high, I'm watching. The sun had dipped just low enough to cast long shadows across the school courtyard. The rain from the night before had left shallow puddles near the gym doors, slick patches of water and mud where the pavement dipped. Most students walked around them without thinking. Rachel was checking her phone, scrolling through pregame messages, when she heard footsteps behind her, fast, deliberate. Hey, new girl. She turned. Derek was there. So was Logan. And stepping in from behind a nearby pillar was Chase Monroe, out of suspension, but not out of anger. Rachel's stomach sank. She looked past them toward the parking lot. No one else around. The team was still inside. The cheer squad was warming up on the other end of campus. She clutched her phone tighter. Chase stepped closer. Got a message for you. She backed up instinctively, but Logan was already behind her, standing near the puddle that stretched like a trap just a few feet away. What are you doing? She asked, voice firm. Just a conversation, Derek said, eyes cold. About justice. You mean revenge? She countered. Chase's jaw clenched. You think you can come into our school, take what isn't yours, ruin lives. I took what I earned. Wrong answer. Logan grabbed her left arm. Derek grabbed her right. Rachel twisted, but their grip was tight. Her sneakers slipped on the damp concrete. She shouted, "Let go of me!" Oops, Derek said with a grin. And then they shoved her. Hard. Rachel landed with a splash. Her back hit the center of the puddle. Cold, murky water soaked through her uniform, her hair, her skin. A jagged piece of broken pavement tore through the hem of her skirt. She gasped as the chill cut through her spine. The boys didn't laugh right away. They watched, satisfied, like predators checking to see if the prey was broken. Then Chase muttered, loud enough for the world to hear, "Looks like she slipped." Laughter followed. Rachel sat up, face streaked with mud, pain buzzing in her shoulder where it hit the pavement. Her cheer uniform clung to her like wet paper. The pride she'd carried onto that field was now dripping down her elbows into the concrete. Someone gasped. Madison Clark, her teammate, had seen it. Others followed. Phones came out. Screens flicked on. One girl whispered, "Oh my God!" Another boy started recording. Brittany Stevens, Rachel's blonde, glitter-wearing co-captain, pulled out her phone and grinned. "This is going on Instagram, epic fail," she announced. "Don't you dare," Madison snapped, rushing toward Rachel. "Are you okay?" Rachel nodded once, but her voice cracked. "I'm fine." She wasn't. Her knees were scraped. Her dignity shredded. Her uniform torn in front of half the squad and a growing crowd. Derek threw up his hands. "Hey, she tripped." "Yeah," Chase added with a smirk. "Maybe now she'll remember where she belongs." They turned and walked away like nothing had happened. Like it was a joke, like she didn't matter. Rachel sat there a moment longer, not because she couldn't move, but because she refused to forget. She memorized everything, the feel of the mud, the sting in her knees, the sound of Chase's voice, the expression on Logan's face, Not cruel, but vacant, like he wasn't even there. Madison helped her up. "Let's get you cleaned." "No." Rachel stood tall. "Take a picture." "What?" "I want to remember this." Madison hesitated, then slowly lifted her phone and took the photo. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Rachel performed the homecoming routine in a borrowed uniform that didn't quite fit. She danced through muscle aches and fought back tears while students whispered and pointed. She could feel the eyes. She could feel the shame trying to latch onto her skin. The Eagles won. 28-14. The stadium roared. Fireworks cracked in the night. But for Rachel Jefferson, the victory meant nothing. She left early, her hair still damp, her elbows still red from the fall. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Videos of her being shoved had already spread. One post read, "Diversity cheerleader can't handle real school spirit." Another said, "When keeping it real goes wrong." When she got home, she didn't shower right away. She sat in the car for 20 minutes in silence. Inside, her father waited. The moment he saw her, mud-streaked, uniform torn, fists clenched around her keys, he didn't speak. He set down his coffee mug with the precision of a man readying for battle. "What happened?" She told him everything, all of it, the puddle, the crowd, the laughter, the camera phones. She didn't skip a single detail, not this time, and when she finished, she didn't cry. She said, "They're not stopping, Dad. They're just getting bolder." He looked at her for a long time, jaw tight. "You followed protocol?" "Yes." "You stayed calm?" "I did." "Then now," he said, voice like gravel, "we stop waiting." She blinked. "You mean?" "I mean we're done playing defense." He stood, pulled open a drawer, and laid down a fresh notebook on the table. "Tomorrow, we plan the offensive." That night, Rachel didn't sleep. She lay in bed with her laptop open, watching the video of herself being pushed over and over. It wasn't self-punishment, it was study. She looked at every frame, Chase's clenched fists, Derek's smirk, Logan's hesitation. She saw not just what they'd done, but who they were. She whispered to herself, "You picked the wrong girl." And this time, she didn't just mean it. She was going to prove it. The day after the puddle incident, Rachel Jefferson woke with a bruise on her hip and fire in her chest. Something had shifted, not just in her, but in the air around her. It wasn't fear anymore. It was strategy. Her father had always taught her that the best defense wasn't a wall, it was a trap. And now the wolves had stepped into hers. They just didn't know it yet. At 7 a.m., sharp, she stood at the kitchen table in her bathrobe, sipping hot tea as her father spread out a manila envelope and a spiral notebook. One filled with notes, the other with possibilities. "We've gathered the intel," he said. "Now it's time to act." Rachel sat down, wincing slightly from the bruise beneath her ribs. "We took down Chase. His world's already burning." Her father nodded. But Chase wasn't the engine, he was the image, the one who cracked first. He tapped a page in the notebook. "Now we go after Derek, the enforcer, the one who put his hands on you." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "He's sloppy." "Exactly," her father said, a glint in his eye, "and greed makes people reckless." They'd already observed Derek Foster enough to know he had a side hustle. After school, he sold vape pens and cartridges to freshmen and sophomores for triple what he paid online. He made the deals behind the gym, near the back fence where the cameras didn't reach. He thought no one was watching. He was wrong. Rachel began shadowing him again. Carefully. She knew his routes, knew his blind spots. She watched from the window of the art building, camera phone steady in her hands, as Derek pocketed cash from a nervous-looking 14-year-old and slipped him a sleek black vape pen. She recorded everything. The next day, she caught him again. 2 buyers. One in a junior varsity hoodie, the other barely tall enough to drive. This time, she didn't just film. She followed. Derek returned to his locker and tucked the remaining stash into a false compartment behind a stack of jerseys. She noted the number, took a picture of the contents, then waited. That evening, she showed her father. Time-stamped, clear visibility, clean audio, he said, nodding. You've got him. Now what? We make sure the right people find out. Wednesday morning, an anonymous email arrived in Principal Reynolds' inbox. Attached, 3 videos, 4 screenshots. A scanned copy of Derek's Venmo transactions linked to known students, with messages like THX again and bring the blue one next time. The subject line read, Student selling illegal vape devices to minors. Urgent disciplinary matter. The body said only, This has been going on for weeks. Please act before someone gets hurt. No signature, no IP trace, just proof. By third period chemistry, it was over. Deputy Collins entered the classroom with a clipboard in one hand and a radio clipped to his vest. The class went still. The teacher paused mid-lecture. Derek Foster, we need to speak with you. Derek tried to play it cool, smirked, slung his bag over his shoulder and said, Sure, no problem. 20 minutes later, they were searching his locker. They found 12 vape pens, individually wrapped, several bags of flavored pods, $312 in cash bound by a red rubber band. By lunch, word had spread like wildfire. Derek suspended. No, he's getting expelled. Somebody recorded him selling to kids. Rachel sat at her usual table, eating a turkey sandwich as if nothing had happened. But inside, her heart beat steady with purpose. Madison leaned in, whispering, You hear what happened to Derek? Rachel raised her eyebrows. Number what? Caught him with like a whole store under his locker shelf. I heard the cops are involved. Rachel chewed slowly. Huh. Weird. That afternoon, Derek's girlfriend Ashley stormed down the hallway in tears, shouting at no one in particular. Derek's father, a known school board member, showed up in a red-faced panic, yelling at the principal and threatening lawsuits. But it didn't matter. The videos had been sent to the school board and the police. The law didn't care about legacy, only evidence. That evening, Rachel and her father met in the basement, their war room. The board now had 2 large red X's, one over Chase, one over Derek. Only one remained. Logan Price. The follower, her father said. He's next. Rachel hesitated. He didn't pull the trigger, she said. He just stood there. Sometimes silence is complicity. I know, she said. But he's the only one who might listen. Her father leaned forward, elbows on knees. What's your gut say? Rachel looked at Logan's photo pinned to the corkboard. His face was blurred in the video of her attack. He hadn't pushed, but he hadn't helped either. My gut says he's scared. Fear's leverage, her father said. You use it, or it uses you. But something unexpected happened the next day. Logan cracked. During 5th period, he texted Chase, then Derek, then Ashley. None replied. Then he made a call to Rachel. It went to voicemail. He didn't leave a message. Later that night, he sent a direct message on Instagram. Can we talk? Rachel showed it to her father. He nodded. This is good. It means pressure's working. I think he wants out, she said. He had his chance on that sidewalk. I know. Still, she replied, we'll talk. But not at school. They agreed to meet Saturday morning. Neutral ground, public. The outdoor tables near the town library, beneath the oaks. Logan showed up looking like he hadn't slept in a week. His hands trembled as he sipped a soda. He didn't meet Rachel's eyes right away. "I didn't push you," he said finally. "No," she replied, "but you watched." He nodded slowly. "I didn't want to be part of it, I just didn't know how to say no." Rachel's voice didn't rise. "You still don't." "I'm sorry," he said. "I know that's not enough." "It's not," she replied, "but it's a start." Logan looked around. "They're going to hate me for this." "They already do," she said quietly. "They're wolves, Logan, and you've been pretending to be one just to stay alive." He nodded again, slower this time. Rachel leaned in. "But you don't have to be like them." Later that night, Logan sent an anonymous email to the superintendent, attaching a statement, naming Chase and Derek as planners of the attack, confirming Rachel had been targeted for her race, admitting he'd been pressured to stay silent. He didn't sign it, but the content was undeniable. And Rachel knew then, this wasn't just about defense anymore, it was about exposing a system. The fallout came fast. By Monday, the school district had launched a formal investigation. The Federal Office for Civil Rights requested copies of all incident reports. Principal Reynolds was placed on administrative leave. Coach Hill resigned. Westfield's reputation, once polished like a trophy case, began to tarnish in headlines. High school faces federal probe over racism allegations. Students' courage sparks national attention. The tide had turned. That evening, Rachel and her father sat in silence again, this time watching CNN. A segment aired showing photos of the boys. Their faces were now blurred for legal reasons, but everyone in Westfield knew who they were. "I should feel proud," Rachel said, fingers curled around her tea. Her father studied her. "But I feel heavy," he nodded. "That's the weight of doing what's right." They said nothing for a while. Then Rachel looked up. "There's still one more battle." Her father raised an eyebrow, the final confrontation. And deep down, she knew it was coming. Because wolves don't go down quietly. They come back one last time. Wounded, desperate, and dangerous. Wolves don't disappear when cornered. They get quiet, they plan. And then they pounce. Rachel Jefferson had taken down 2 of them. Chase Monroe's college future was in ruins, and Derek Foster's side business had turned into a criminal case. Logan Price had folded under pressure and turned informant. Westfield High was under scrutiny. A federal investigation loomed. Principal Reynolds was out, Coach Hill had vanished, and the once proud football program was cracking like glass underfoot. But something still hung in the air, a storm that hadn't hit yet. The Thursday after Logan's confession, Rachel noticed it first. A black pickup truck parked across the street from her house. It didn't belong to any neighbor, no bumper stickers, no decals, just tinted windows and quiet idling at odd hours. Her father noticed too. He didn't say much. Just cleaned the security cameras, rechecked the locks, and added a new sensor to the side yard. "Eyes open," he reminded her. Rachel nodded. She started walking with a flashlight at dusk, even if the streetlights were on. Her phone stayed charged. Her keys were kept between her fingers like claws, just in case. That Friday night she decided to clear her head. She needed air. The tension at school had grown unbearable. Every step through the hallways felt watched. Half the students looked at her with quiet awe, the other half with resentment. Some murmured that she brought too much attention. Others said she was brave. She didn't feel brave, she just felt tired. So, around 8:30 p.m., she laced her sneakers, zipped up her hoodie, and went for a walk, same path she always took. Past the mailbox, down the block, toward the edge of Riverside Park. Her earbuds stayed in, but no music played, just the low hum of wind and instinct. She didn't see the truck until she heard the engine. Low, slow, matching her steps. She glanced into the reflection of a parked car window. 3 doors opened, and the wolves stepped out. "Hey, Jefferson," Chase called. Rachel's breath caught, but her pace didn't change. Derek flanked her right. Logan, quiet, pale, hung back near the curb. Rachel's father's words echoed in her memory. Never let them choose the ground. Either escape or make the encounter yours. She turned at the next intersection, sharper, brighter, closer to houses. But Derek cut her off. Logan blocked the other side. Chase stood behind her. They'd planned this. "You've been busy," Chase said, stepping into the glow of a porch light. Rachel didn't reply. "We just want to talk," he added. "No cameras, no cops, just answers." Derek's face twitched. "You think you won, huh?" Rachel glanced to her left. 40 feet to the nearest house. Lights off, no movement inside. She slowly reached into her pocket, palming her phone. "Don't," Derek warned. "No calls." "You don't control me," she said calmly. Chase stepped closer. "But you do owe us an explanation." "For what? Exposing the truth." Chase's jaw tightened. "For ruining everything. You ruined yourselves. You set us up. I protected myself." Chase leaned in. "And tonight, you're going to answer for it." That's when she saw it. The glint of steel. A knife. Small, but real. In Chase's hand. Logan's eyes widened. "What the hell are you doing?" Chase ignored him. Rachel froze, body ready, breath slow. Her training surged forward like a second heartbeat. "You really think you're a hero?" Derek growled. "Think you're gonna change the world?" "No," Rachel replied. "I just wanted you to stop hurting people. You destroyed our lives. You handed me the weapon," she said evenly. "I just showed people what you were already doing." And then Chase lunged. Her body reacted before thought. She sidestepped left, clean, sharp, just like in training. His knife sliced air. She grabbed his wrist mid-strike, twisted it inward. He gasped. Her knee struck his ribs. He staggered. Derek charged next, all weight and anger. She dropped low, swept his legs. He crashed onto the concrete with a bark of pain. Logan stood frozen. "Do something!" Derek shouted. But Logan didn't move. Chase came again, blade raised. Rachel ducked the first strike, caught his elbow, slammed it into her shoulder. The knife dropped. She kicked it away. Chase roared, grabbing her jacket. She twisted out, landed a solid palm to his sternum, just as her father had taught her. He stumbled back, breath gone. Rachel spun around, just in time to see Derek rushing with a pipe he'd grabbed from the truck bed. She ducked, barely. The pipe whistled past her ear. She swept her foot, caught his shin, sent him tumbling again. This time, he didn't get up. It was over in under 30 seconds. 3 against 1. And they lost. Sirens echoed down the street. Flashing red and blue lights bounced off windows. Someone, maybe a neighbor, had called for help. Rachel stood in the center of the cul-de-sac, chest heaving, fists curled, adrenaline crackling in her veins. The knife lay on the ground beside her. Chase moaned, clutching his ribs. Derek whimpered from the sidewalk. Logan sat on the curb, hands over his face. Officer Martinez was the first on scene, hand on her holster, eyes scanning. "What's going on here?" Rachel raised her hands slowly. "They cornered me. One had a knife." She pointed. Officer Martinez's eyes fell to Chase, shirt torn, lip bleeding. "Is that true?" Chase groaned. "She attacked us." "She defended herself," Logan muttered. Everyone turned. He stood slowly, eyes glassy. "They planned it." Said they were going to scare her, said nobody would care. Officer Martinez radioed for backup. Deputy Collins arrived seconds later. The weapon was secured. The boys were cuffed. Rachel sat on the back of the ambulance, blanket around her shoulders, refusing treatment beyond a bandage for her scraped hand. Her father arrived 10 minutes later, his black truck screeching to a halt. He ran to her side, eyes scanning for injury. "I'm okay," she whispered. "I remembered everything." "You did better than okay," he said, and for the first time in weeks she smiled. At the station, the boys were processed separately. Chase faced charges of assault with a deadly weapon, attempted intimidation, conspiracy. Derek was charged with assault, conspiracy. Logan gave a full statement and was released to his mother with a warning and a referral to juvenile counseling services. Rachel gave her statement with poise, clarity, and unwavering calm. When asked how she stayed composed, she said only, "My father trained me to survive." The news broke the next morning. Student fends off knife attack and alleged hate crime plot. Westfield teen turns tables on accusers. Viral video shows girl defending herself in suburban ambush. That last one included cell phone footage from a neighbor's Ring camera. The clip showed Chase lunging, Rachel dodging, and the knife clattering to the pavement. The video went viral in hours. By Monday, national media outlets had picked it up. Rachel was invited onto morning shows, asked to speak at school assemblies, praised by civil rights groups and veterans alike. But she turned most of it down. "I didn't do this for attention," she told one reporter. "I did it because I wanted to walk home safe." That week, Westfield High changed. Real change. Mandatory sensitivity training was implemented. An anonymous reporting system was launched. Rachel returned to class with her head held high. Some students clapped. Some stayed silent. But no one called her a diversity hire again. That Friday, as she sat in her kitchen sipping hot tea, her father said quietly, "You've won." Rachel looked out the window. "I didn't want to win," she said. "I just didn't want to lose quietly." Weeks had passed since the night the wolves were exposed beneath streetlights and sirens. Rachel Jefferson sat alone on the steps of Westfield High, now quieter, less chaotic. The fall leaves rustled softly as dusk painted the sky in burnt orange. She wasn't hiding anymore. She didn't walk fast between classes. She didn't lower her eyes in the halls. She stood taller now, not because the fear was gone, but because it had been faced and beaten. The school had changed, new policies, a new principal, mandatory racial bias training. Cameras were added near the gym. A zero-tolerance bullying clause had been implemented. But change didn't happen just because the law intervened. It happened because a teenage girl refused to be silent, and an entire system had no choice but to listen. Reporters had moved on. The headlines had faded. The internet found new outrage. But in this small Georgia town, the echo remained. Rachel still bore scars. Not just the faint line on her elbow, but the ones beneath her skin. The betrayal, the humiliation, the silence of teachers who looked away. But she bore them with purpose. She knew now that dignity didn't come from staying clean. It came from standing up in the mud and daring the world to keep watching. Her father, Captain Jefferson, stood nearby, hands in his jacket pockets, pride in his eyes. Not because his daughter fought like a soldier, but because she chose not to become one. She'd had every reason to harden, to hate, to strike back with venom. Instead, she struck back with evidence, with intelligence, with truth. And America noticed. Rachel had received a scholarship to Spelman College. She was invited to speak on school safety panels, honored by civil rights groups, and featured in a documentary on youth activism. But she didn't call herself a hero. She called herself prepared. Her story wasn't about revenge. It was about restoration. It wasn't about fists. It was about what happens when someone says, "No more." What would you have done in Rachel's shoes? Let's talk about it. If her courage, resilience, and sharp mind inspired you, hit that like button. Leave a comment below. We want to hear your thoughts. Do you think schools are doing enough to protect students from hate and harassment? What change would you fight for? And if you believe more people need to hear stories like Rachel's, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We've got more powerful, real-life inspired narratives coming your way. Stories that shake the silence and shine a light on truth. Let's stand up together.